All right, everyone, welcome. We have a few more people on. If you want to write in the chat box where you're streaming in from, that'd be great. My name is Becca Levy. I am the Farm and Sustainability Director at the Boulder JCC. And tonight I'm gathered with Yosef Gillers from Torah and Arielle Aronoff from Teva. And the three of us are very steeped in Judaism and ecology and farming. And we thought it would be fun to try and do a virtual herb walk with you guys from 3 locations to try and find the perfect Maror. It's actually, I do want to give a shout out to the to Abundance Farm, which is another Jewish community farm in Northampton, Massachusetts. For the title, In Search of the Perfect Maror. They actually do a lesson sort of like this. A lot of us actually have a similar plant tasting lesson as this, but they came up with this title. So shout out to them. And I think the next thing I want to do, Yosef, if you want to go to the next slide. Before we formally introduce ourselves, housekeeping. I think a lot of people have used Zoom at this point, given that we're almost a month into most people's stay-at-home directive. But I just want to point out that in the bottom left corner, so it's not actually what's written there, at the bottom left corner is your mute or unmute. We're going to ask people to stay on mute unless we actually have one breakout room opportunity, so then you'll unmute yourself then. If you want to change your view, your speaker view, it's in the top right corner. If you want to ask any questions, write those in the chat box, and we are monitoring that chat box. And just to make sure that we know that you guys all have access to your chat box, write, if you haven't yet, write where you're from. I see my sister on. What's up, Shayna?
We've got people on Instagram Live also who might ask questions. You're welcome to ask questions on Instagram Live, and I will ask them to the group if you are not on our Zoom.
All right. Becca, should we roll into
introducing ourselves?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh, whoops, sorry. Overview. My bad.
No, because you were gonna take us off the PowerPoint for introducing ourselves. That's why.
Sorry.
It's all good. I said who I was. I'm Becca Levy, the Farm and Sustainability Director at the Boulder JCC, and I am passionate about Judaism and farming, and so this topic is going to be really fun for us to explore.
Awesome. Hi everybody, I'm Yosef Gillers from Torah. I'm the executive director, and I too am passionate about farming and Judaism, and I love being inspired by when the two inform each other, which I think in the process of preparing for this, that has happened for me, so I'm excited for us to get to share that with you all tonight.
Hi, I'm Arielle Aronoff. I'm the director of Teva, an outdoor education program of Hazon. And yeah, I love ecology, exploring the forest, exploring outdoors. What can we find out there, and how does Judaism inform our relationship to the world around us, and the world around us to our relationship with Judaism?
Right.
So today, in this session, we're going to be covering a variety of topics. We'll start with the personal. What are our family traditions, and how do we, what do we put on our Seder plate? We will go through a virtual herb tour from two different ecosystems and zones, and then we'll go and look at the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah have to say about Maror? And where can we find these things today? And then how do we take it home? Will be the last thing.
So I'd like to share with us all, we can study the Mishnah in Pesachim is right here. Can I just see a thumbs up from folks so you can see the screen clearly? Just want to make sure that that's working sweet. Awesome. So Rabbi Gamliel Haya Omer, Rabbi Gamliel was—
Wait, Yosef, oh. I don't remember what the Mishnah is.
Oh, great. Thank you. The Mishnah, awesome, Becca. The Mishnah is a really cool rabbinic text from around a few thousand years ago. And it kind of catalogs different teachings from different rabbis about all sorts of laws. And so there are laws about Passover, there are laws about the Sabbath, there are laws about plants, there are laws not about electronics, but a lot of the laws that are mentioned in the Mishnah, the rabbis and later generations used to delve into what the law is for today. Thank you, Becca. So Rabbi Gamliel was wont to say, whoever does not say these three things on Pesach, whoever does not give the reasons for these three things, has not fulfilled his obligation. Pesach, matzah, and maror. Pesach, because the Lord passed over the houses of our forefathers in Egypt. Matzah, because our forefathers were redeemed from Egypt. Maror, because the Egyptians embittered, maruru in Hebrew, the lives of our forefathers in Egypt. In every generation, one must see himself as if he went forth from Egypt. So if this sounds familiar, that's because we also recite this and read this at the Pesach Seder. So we're getting you pumped up for it. And
so Maror that's a really big part of our Passover Seder. Seems like it's one of the three biggest things, huh?
It is exactly right. It is one of the three biggest things in the Passover Seder. And I particularly love Maror because Vayimareru et chayehem is the phrase from the Torah, from one of the 5 books of Moses, from Exodus, from Shemot, where explaining how the Egyptians embittered our lives. That phrase is from my personal bar mitzvah Torah portion. So every time I hear it, I remember the good things about my bar mitzvah, and it's lovely. And so here we have the foundation for Maror is a really big part of our Pesach experience.
Yeah. So we're going to have the opportunity to go into small rooms. Although,
yeah, I'll do it.
Well, I feel like there's not very many people on, so maybe we could just share out here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and feel free to maybe one by one unmute yourself, and if you want to share with us, what do you use? What does your family use for Maror on your Seder plate?
Here, I can unmute people and I'll call on people so that it doesn't get Zoom awkward.
Sweet.
I'll start. I grew up using horseradish as Maror on our Seder plate, and that was it. I didn't even hear about people using romaine lettuce, which I know is quite common, until I would say even in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Let's see. Uri, are you in a place where you could share? I'm trying to unmute you, but for some reason, actually, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? What do I use?
Yeah,
I think I grew up using parsley with my family. Grew up using parsley, and I took on the Chabad tradition of using romaine lettuce and horseradish together. You've been watching? Okay, good.
Sweet.
Right on.
Thank you.
We use, romaine lettuce and horseradish together.
Also sweet chickens.
Thank you.
Arielle, what did you grow up using?
I grew up using horseradish and also learned about romaine lettuce in the past 5 years.
What about, let's see, who's Rachel? How about you?
Uh-oh.
Rachel, you're still muted. I'm trying to unmute you. There you go.
How's that? Okay. We used horseradish, and we always had sort of like the like we had like slices of that root, just like the white pieces, and then we also had a kind that had, you know, was like purple from having beets in it. And then I do remember us having Seders with romaine, and I always felt confused as to why it sort of just like showed up, because, and yeah, we would like dip it in, you know, the salt water, and it was sort of just like an extra option. I don't remember when it showed up.
It's so not extra. If there was an alternative title to this session for tonight, it would be Redeeming Romaine's Bad Rep.
But right, exactly. So we will go into that.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
Yosef, what did you grow up with?
I grew up using romaine and horseradish, freshly grated, and it was always a competition of who could eat the most horseradish and like how much your eyes would like bulge out of your head with tears.
Right.
And I don't know if anyone else had this experience, but we would even get charts explaining how much you were supposed to eat to fulfill the halachic, the Jewish legal amount to fulfill your obligation to eat maror. And like there were years where it was like, well, romaine is more loose, and so you have to eat like 6 pieces of romaine lettuce, but only like 2 tablespoons of shredded horseradish. And there's literally like charts, like pieces of paper that are like this many pieces of romaine lettuce. Real fun.
Wow. Sarah or Molly, Molly, I don't know if you grew up with your Seder plate, but Sarah, do you want to share?
Yeah, my family did mostly romaine lettuce, and every once in a while we would get grated horseradish, but it wasn't until later, until I learned more about plants, as to why romaine lettuce was considered bitter herbs.
Yep.
Yeah, which was cool.
I love that foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Molly, you want to share anything on the topic?
Yeah, well, so I didn't grow up with a Seder plate, but I would say in my experience sampling, especially last year at the Boulder Jewish Food Fest, I could eat horseradish all day long. I love it. I love everything about it. I love the spicy, I love the sweet, and I prefer it over romaine and parsley. So those are my feelings.
Awesome.
Sweet. We are about to hear from some of us what it's like to eat horseradish. So let's check this out.
Here on the Adama farm, we have some horseradish.
I decided to plant some, and here I harvested some.
And I'm gonna dig it up, and we're gonna taste it together. So, horseradish.
I'm gonna taste the root and see how bitter it is.
All right, got a nice clean piece.
That is a really spicy taste. That is like making my nose run. Full on up in my nose. I would call that taste spicy.
Woo! That is sharp. Goes right up the nose. Woo!
With a little bit of sweetness. Maybe that's due to the homegrown horseradish.
Right on, right on. So, folks, has anyone ever had homegrown horseradish here? You can like wave or use a little hand. Molly's got some homegrown horseradish. Arielle, that was your homegrown horseradish. Was yours sweet, or was that Becca making it up?
I'm pretty sure Uri harvested his today.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
right on. Arielle, has your horseradish ever been sweet?
It had like a little bit of like a fruity flavor towards the end. Like once, I think like in the very beginning, before it hits the sinuses, and then after, once it's calmed down a little bit, yeah, there's like a little fruitness.
Okay.
I'll caveat my sweetness. It's quite cold, or it can be quite cold still here in Colorado. And the horseradish plant is in the brassica family. And brassicas and some other plants, when they are defending themselves against getting very cold, they create extra sugars in their plant juices to prevent them from freezing, just like adding salt to water. So that, I think, could have also been that sweetness I was tasting.
Gnarly. What do y'all think? Should we find out some other backyard greens and herbs, what they might taste like? Let's go a little more of a virtual tour. All right, so what do you have in your backyards?
I have a whole lot.
Oops, sorry, wrong one. No! Stop! Sorry, everybody. Knew that was going to happen.
Don't worry. All we saw was a black screen for a second.
Okay, good.
No spoilers were given.
Sorry, everybody. Oh, man. We'll get there. Technical difficulties. Beautiful, beautiful things.
It's good. It keeps everyone on their toes.
Exactly. You there? Did you see our...
Basically, the point here that we are trying to make is...
I decided to come outside.
Oh, I got it.
All right.
Sorry.
See what I could taste.
Not bitter.
Yes, horseradish is not bitter. It's spicy. Sorry. So we're going to go look for other things and see if they're spicy or bitter. Finally found the right video.
So one of the first plants that I think has a bitter taste is garlic mustard. Garlic mustard is not a native species, and it's considered invasive because it takes over large swaths of ground and spreads their seeds really, really easily. Let's taste some garlic mustard.
And I found this sorrel that we grow here, so I'm going to taste some. And I wonder if this is bitter.
It's very garlicky, pretty spicy, a little bitter, a little sweet. It's pretty good.
Sour. Sorrel is definitely sour, not a bitter herb.
I highly suggest putting some in salad or making pesto out of it. Eat your weeds.
So what do we think?
I think we need help. We need to
help.
actually find bitter. Maybe Yosef, what does the Mishnah have to tell us?
All right, let's dig into the Mishnah. Here we go, folks. So the Mishnah in Pesachim, again, that wonderful text. I'll read it in Hebrew quickly and then in English. Ve'elu yirakot she'adam yotzei v'hen yedei chavato b'Pesach b'chazeret u'v'ulshin u'v'tamcha u'v'charchavina u'v'maror. And these are the greens with which one fulfills their obligation to eat maror, bitter herbs, on Pesach. And we just transliterated for now, and we're going to dig into it. With chazeret, with ulshin, with tamcha, with charchavina, and with maror. So mar means bitter in the Hebrew. And so we're trying to figure out what is the bitter thing. What is the bitter plant, and what plants of these are actually bitter? So Exhibit A.
So yeah, that first one that was talked about was chazeret. Chazeret is a little confusing because in modern Hebrew, it actually means horseradish. However, in biblical Hebrew, chazeret is not horseradish. Chazeret is our romaine lettuce. So everyone who said that they are used to having romaine lettuce on their Seder plate, that is the first one that the Mishnah talks about. So there's a botanist by the name of
Yehuda Felix.
He's a biblical botanist, and he went through and he figured out what all these, it was just in the 20th century. He wrote a book on what are all these plants in the Bible. So Chazeret, he says, definitively as well, it is Lactica sativa, which is that's the Latin name for domesticated lettuce. Domesticated lettuce, it should be said, it used to not be as sweet as it is today. It's been bred. You can get hundreds of different varieties of head lettuce or baby lettuce. There are a bunch of different varieties. The species is the Lactica sativa. However, even with how sweet it has been bred over about 2,500 years, this plant has been bred to be sweeter. When it goes to seed, sometimes called bolting, which there's a picture of that on the screen, it still gets so bitter. And there's actually a teaching in the Talmud that says, why are Egyptians compared to Maror? To teach that just as Maror is at the first soft, but at its end hard, so too the Egyptians at the beginning were soft, but at the end were harsh. And so that romaine lettuce has a great metaphor, even though we're often eating it when it's very sweet tasting.
Crazy. So what's next? Ulshin. Has anyone ever seen this on their roadsides or anywhere in field chicory? It's got that beautiful blue flower. So Olesh is the singular, Ulshin is the plural. And so I apologize for mispronouncing. I don't speak Latin and I don't know the botanical name. Chicorium intibus. How did I do, Farmer Becca?
None of us speak Latin. You're fine.
Nice. So chicory. And I actually have a very different variety of chicory. The seeds for it right here, chicory greens. And it's totally, it's a lettuce. It's totally edible. It's bitter. I've had them before. They're good, but not crazy.
I do want to say both chicory and lettuce are actually in the same family, plant species family, which isn't reflected in the Latin name. It's one level up, but it's in that composite. Yeah, composite is the 50 years ago name. Today you'll see Asteraceae. But they all sort of many of them have that bitter tinge.
And am I do indigenous folks use this as like a coffee or a tea, chewing the root? Arielle, have you heard that?
Roasted.
You can roast the root, and it's a diuretic, and so that's why they actually compared it to coffee. It has like slightly similar flavor profile, but also mostly for the diuretic properties. And it's not caffeinated at all. It's actually a depressant.
Oh, interesting.
It makes you calm.
Right on. Okay, cool. So there's Ulshin, and by the way, these pictures that you see here, you can get them on the Grow Torah website as coloring pages if you want, for you or your kids. They're really complex coloring pages, but like, how cool is it to have biblical botany coloring pages for your Pesach Seder activities or pre-Pesach Seder activities? All right.
So Maror is, as we learned, it means bitter, and Felix has his research shows that this is sow thistle, and it is a native to Europe and the Middle East. And the young plants are edible raw, but as they mature, similar to the lettuce, they develop this really hard central stalk and these thorns. And so just as Becca taught us the lesson with lettuce, so too is the same with Maror, the thistle. And the sweetness turns into bitter. And it's interesting because in Israel or in the Middle East, the life cycle for this plant, it would be coming to maturity right now, whereas in my bioregion in the Northeast, it's just coming out, and so the leaves are actually quite sweet where they're growing here. And it won't be until midsummer where they develop this central stalk and become very bitter and unpalatable. So it's an interesting sort of switch of ecosystems. And though they're native to Europe and the Middle East, they were brought over here to North America. And yeah, you can find them growing in disturbed areas. They're in the same family as dandelion.
And lettuce and chicory. It's all the same family so far.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's a little bit about Maror.
Maror. Tamcha.
Oh, Tamcha. Did we skip Harchavina?
Oopsies. Harchavina didn't make it in. I don't know what happened. Sorry, folks. Do you want to tell us about Harchavina?
Sure. It's a quick one.
Okay.
Harchavina. That's funny. I made the slide really nice today. Anyways,
Sorry.
It's Harchavina is also, or Felix thinks that it's Eryngium, and I think so do a few other sources. Eryngium is the genus for a plant called sea holly, which is you see actually a lot as a cut flower grown today. And here in Boulder, Colorado, there are no leaves up yet for sea holly. In a former life, I used to be a cut flower grower and grew it, and it's not in the field yet. So, oh well, that's Harchavina. It is not in the Asteraceae family. I want to say just note, it's in the Apiaceae family, which is the same family as carrots and parsnips and dill and
parsley.
And parsley, right.
Which many people use for karpas, which is
right.
Interesting. Sorry, I'm going to take the blame for losing that slide, everybody. It's my fault. I lost the Eryngium slide.
All good. Okay, Tamcha is the one. This is where the confusion really started with horseradish. So Tamcha, Rashi says is horehound, and Maimonides says is a type of chicory. So horehound is also it's not in the that Asteraceae, the composite family, but then Maimonides says that it's a type of chicory, which is. However, in the 14th century was the first time that Maror was actually cited as horseradish was actually cited as permissible for Maror. And so that was the 14th century. Fast forward, and by the way, this information is now that I'm getting about the history of Tamcha is from the Encyclopedia of Jewish Food by Gil Marx. So then fast forward 300 years, and Rabbi Yom Tov Lippman ben Nathan Heller in his Tosfot Yom Tov, which is a commentary on the Mishnah, actually then misidentified Tamcha as explicitly horseradish. So he's saying it wasn't, 14th century it's permissible, 17th century actually horseradish is Tamcha. And then it's led so much so to the Ashkenazi Jews, and this is, horseradish. It was permissible to use horseradish as our maror, especially as Jews were going further and further north, and there wasn't actually green yet outside. And so they said, okay, what can we use? Let's use horseradish, hence needing to make it permissible. But then, it started being misidentified, and so much so that, as I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, the modern Hebrew word for horseradish is chazeret, which is one of the species that is permissible for maror.
Which we now know is actually lettuce, Lactica sativa.
Right. Not horseradish.
Not horseradish.
Super confusing.
Amazing. So I'd like for us to explore briefly just one teaching from a halachic sefer, a Jewish legal text, the Shulchan Aruch, which is like a code of Jewish law, and that gives us a really nice, simple, straightforward nugget as to like how all of these divergent things happen, as much as there's always divergent customs and opinions in Judaism and in Jewish law. This one particularly, since the botany is clear and like we know horseradish is not lactica sativa, we know those are just not the same. How can it be that those two different things are used for the same practice? So the ein lo echad me'elu hayirakot yikach la'ana o sh'ar yirek mar. So if one does not, this is the Rama speaking, or Moshe Isserles, who was writing in like Ashkenaz in the region where a lot of the custom to kind of eat horseradish came from. If one does not have any of these green vegetables, one should take la'ana, which was translated by some as wormwood, and not wormwood, something else, I forget, or any other bitter vegetable. So anything bitter goes, which is pretty fascinating because I was speaking to a mentor and a teacher of mine and a friend who said I could quote him on this, who was sharing that he just started using spring mix as his maror. So everyone familiar with like spring mix? It's usually got baby spinach, baby chard, baby beet greens. Farmers in the room, what other leaves, what other greens are usually in the spring mix?
Normally has lettuce, to be fair, in it as well. And also some mustard leaves is normally in spring mix.
Some mustard. So plant families wise, what plant family is spinach and beets and chard?
So I heard someone say it, goosefoot, also known as quinopods.
Okay, so totally, we haven't even mentioned that plant family yet. And that was the one that he was saying, he's like, yeah, well, that's really bitter. So that's what I eat for my maror, because it's so clearly. So it's, which was fascinating. And then mustard greens is like kind of giving you that sharpness, the spiciness, because it's part of the brassica family. And then lettuce, if there's baby lettuces in there, then that's lactica sativa. So there's a mix in there. But the point is anything kind of goes, which is really fun. And at least for me, I practice pretty strict Orthodox Judaism. It's rare that anything goes. So this is a fun teaching for me to get to share. Anything bitter goes over here. So what is bitter near you? And we had our team go and check out what is bitter near us in different regions that we're in. So let's see. This was from Teaneck today. Actually, this is from a few different places. Sorry. This little video right here. Oh, we are real confused, folks. Sorry. Hey, Arielle, you look great in that video. We were looking for dandelions. So we heard the dandelions are part of the chicory family. And here we go. Hopefully this time.
And lettuce, same family, all the same family.
Excellent. Here in Teaneck at a beautiful shul, we have dandelions all over. Beautiful, beautiful dandelions.
Hi. Here in my garden, among the raspberry canes, I have some dandelion growing. They're called dandelion because they have the dente leon, the lion's teeth. Rawr.
All clean, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri ha'adamah. Not bad. Mildly bitter.
I'm going to taste this dandelion leaf and see if it's bitter. Yeah, I would definitely call that bitter.
I love that. Anyone here ever eat dandelion greens? Yeah, it's pretty seriously bitter. Especially as they get older, they also get more bitter. Now, over in Colorado, Farmer Becca, what do you have that's wild, that's green and growing? Oh, I think I might just have a video that will tell us.
I have a whole lot of this plant that I know as prickly lettuce. Some people know as wild lettuce, and others know as Lactica scariola.
I picked some of this Lactica scariola, this prickly lettuce. I'm gonna see if it tastes bitter. Oh, that is very distinctly bitter.
Very bitter.
That just came in on Instagram. Someone wants to know, how does it compare to arugula?
Awesome question.
I wish we could ask them back if they think arugula is bitter or spicy.
Well, we can. Person on Instagram. Do you think arugula is bitter or spicy?
We'll see if they answer. I'll let you know. I'll get back to you.
And the rest of us on the Zoom right now. Do you think arugula is bitter or spicy?
Right in the chat box.
Write it in the chat box. I'm totally writing my answer.
From my experience, they wrote it's bitter.
Huh. Arielle, what do you think about that?
Someone wrote in the chat, it's spicy from Molly. Arugula's we're getting, seems like mixed reviews. Some people are saying spicy, some people are saying bitter.
I think that people should go to the store or to their backyard wherever they feel safe right now in terms of being out in public / eating things, and do a taste test. Find your arugula and find your everything else and see what you think.
Arielle, what were you going to say?
I was also, so bitter is not a taste that we have in our Western diet very often. And so when we're not accustomed to eating something, we don't often have the language to use around taste and smells particularly. So I think the more that we eat bitter foods, like everything that we've just listed, we'll become more accustomed to what does bitter actually taste like. Because we think of horseradish as something bitter, but in fact, a more accurate term would be spicy.
So cool. So cool. Got a little bit of this left. Farmer Becca, I think you're up.
I just wanted to talk more about that Lactica scariola. It's probably much more similar to what romaine was like before it was domesticated, and it is also native to the Middle East, and it grows as a weed all over Boulder, which is probably because we also have an arid climate. And then the other thing is what I don't think we've mentioned yet. The Mishnah also mentions that bitter herbs have a milky sap most of the time, and that when they flower, they form a big stalk. And so both of those things are actually also true with Lactica scariola, which in biblical Hebrew is also called chazeret, but called chazeret galim.
And I just really geeked out when learning, when studying this with Arielle and Becca, because one of the Mishnahs that talks about chazeret galim actually specifically says you can plant chazeret galim with chazeret. So you can plant Lactica scariola in the same bed right next to Lactica sativa, and it's not considered a forbidden mixture, prohibition of what's in Hebrew called kilayim, which is like blending of two different species or crossbreeding, because they're so closely related. And I just thought that was really cool that you can kind of learn from, you know, if you don't have so much plant botany knowledge, you can kind of learn a little bit of that from kilayim, and you can also understand the general concept of kilayim from the botany knowledge here. And I found that really exciting. And dandelions. Arielle, were you going to talk about that?
Yeah. So dandelions are native to Europe, and they were brought to North America through colonialism, and they have now become naturalized. We don't call them an invasive species because they don't take over habitat from other plants. They live sort of side by side, and they have so many amazing medicinal uses. And so people tend to like them. And except for gardeners, somehow they always spray. Somehow there's always advertising to get rid of their dandelions in your yard, but don't do that because you can put them on the Seder plate. You can roast their roots for tea. The flowers are edible, the leaves are edible, the whole plant. And well, there actually, maybe you can put it on your Seder plate. If you're going by the verse that says anything that's bitter, then yes. But if you're going by it needs to have the long stalk, dandelions don't develop that. And so it is different from the sow thistle, the Sonchus oleracea. Though they are in the same family.
I want to also mention that dandelion flowers are one of the best early forage for bees.
True.
Yes.
So great for our pollinators.
Super great for our pollinators. And what will you try this year? Something new, something local, or something traditional? Not new, not local, and not bitter.
Right in the chat box. Anyone inspired to try something new for their Maror, or to do a taste test? Get a bunch of these things. If you haven't gone shopping for Passover yet, and so you still need to go to a grocery store, or if you have them in your backyard, or in a place that is sparsely populated that you feel safe about getting dandelion from, especially. Radicchio. Nice.
Is that in the endive family?
Yeah.
Right on. Some purple.
Yeah, radicchio is super bitter and reminds me of a Harry Potter spell.
Which one?
Radicchio. Can you see it? It could be like our bitter spell. Make the herbs bitter. Radicchio.
Amazing.
It's just what I think about with radicchio or radicchio.
Thanks,
I'm inspired to have a taste test this year. I think that would be a really fun thing. Also to engage my 3-year-old in it.
I challenge everyone to do a taste test at their Seder. Find some funky herbs and try it. I do it every year. Now that once I learned this blend, I started getting it. My family gets excited. Everyone loves eating dandelions. They haven't had them yet.
Sweet. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us. Whether you're on the Zoom or the Instagram Live, or I think this is on maybe my personal Facebook is where it ended up going. Who knows if anyone's watching. But this was really fun. And Yosef and Arielle, it was really fun to get to work with you guys exploring this topic from 2 different regions and 2 different Jewish farming Jaffe program perspectives. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
Thanks,
Thank you all for coming.
So much, everyone who tuned in on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Chag Sameach, everyone.
Chag Sameach.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Plants.
All right, bye.
Bye.